Have you ever felt like someone was pulling the strings in your life and you were the puppet? Maybe it was a boyfriend who always twisted your words. Maybe it was a friend who made you feel guilty for saying no. Or maybe it was a boss who kept you working late while pretending he was doing you a favor. Manipulation isn't always obvious. It often hides under kindness, guilt, or flattery. And when it comes to relationships between men and women, many people, especially women, struggle to see it before it's too late. Today, I want to talk about how to stop being manipulated by men, using insights connected to Jordan Peterson's ideas about responsibility, psychology, and power dynamics. But don't worry, this isn't going to be a heavy lecture. I'll keep it real, personal, and practical, so that by the end of this video, you'll know the signs to watch, the strategies to protect yourself, and the mindset that gives you freedom. So let's dive in. Part 1. Understanding manipulation. Before you can stop being manipulated, you need to see it clearly. Most manipulation isn't about brute force. It's about psychological control. A manipulative man doesn't always shout, threaten, or demand. Instead, he might make you feel guilty for wanting something, use charm to distract you from his true intentions, play the victim so you end up taking responsibility for his mistakes, twist your words so you start doubting your own memory. Think of manipulation as control without honesty. A healthy man will tell you what he wants openly. A manipulative man will hide what he wants behind emotional tricks. Here's a simple example. Imagine you're tired after a long day and you tell him, "I just want to rest tonight." A manipulative man might respond, "Oh, I guess I'm not important enough for your time. Don't worry, I'll just sit here alone." Notice what happened? You simply stated a need, but instead of respecting it, he reframed the situation so that you feel guilty. Now, instead of resting, you might spend the night comforting him. That's manipulation. Part 2. Why women fall into the trap. Now, the big question is, why do people, especially women, fall into these traps? One reason is empathy. Women often have a strong sense of care for others. This is a beautiful trait, but manipulators twist it. They know that if they play weak or sad, you'll rush to fix them. Another reason is fear of conflict. Many women are raised to be polite, agreeable, and accommodating. When a manipulator pushes, instead of pushing back, you might try to keep the peace. But keeping the peace with a manipulator usually means losing your freedom. There's also the illusion of love. A manipulative man might give you attention and affection, but only when it suits him. He creates a cycle: reward, withdraw, reward again. It's almost like training a pet with treats. This makes you chase his approval, even when he's treating you badly. Psychologists call this intermittent reinforcement. It's the same principle used in gambling machines. You never know when the next reward will come, so you keep pulling the lever. In relationships, you never know when he'll show kindness again, so you keep trying harder. Part 4. How manipulation connects to power. Let's go deeper. Jordan Peterson often talks about power and responsibility. Manipulation is really about control without responsibility. A man who manipulates wants control over you, but he doesn't want to admit it. He avoids responsibility by making you feel like the problem. For example, he spends money carelessly, but when the bills arrive, he blames you for nagging. He flirts with others, but if you confront him, he says you're too jealous. He ignores your needs, but when you bring it up, he claims you're never satisfied. See the pattern? He keeps the power, he does what he wants, you carry the responsibility. You deal with the guilt, the blame, the fixing. If you allow this pattern, over time, you lose confidence. You start to second-guess yourself. And here's the scary part. You may even start to believe his version of reality. That's when manipulation turns into control. Part 5. Recognizing the warning signs. So, how do you know if you're being manipulated? Here are some warning signs to watch out for. You often feel guilty for no clear reason. If you walk away from a conversation feeling like everything was your fault, that's a red flag. Your boundaries are constantly ignored. Maybe you said no, but somehow you end up saying yes anyway. He plays hot and cold. One day he's loving, the next day distant. This keeps you on edge, always trying to win back his warmth. You feel small. In a healthy relationship, you feel stronger and more confident. In a manipulative one, you feel weaker and more doubtful. You can't be yourself. If you're always editing your words, hiding your feelings, or shrinking your personality, something's wrong. Part 6. Taking back your power. The good news is you can learn to stop manipulation, but it requires two things: awareness and courage. Awareness. Start by noticing the patterns. Keep a mental note when you feel guilt, shame, or doubt after conversations. Ask yourself, did I actually do something wrong, or was this planted in me? Example. If you say, I need space, and he replies, you're abandoning me, stop and think, did you abandon him, or did you just express a healthy need? Courage. Once you see manipulation, you have to act. That means setting clear boundaries and sticking to them. For example, if you say no, don't explain it 10 times. If he guilt trips you, don't argue, just repeat your boundary. If he twists your words, calmly state what you really meant and don't get dragged into endless debate. Courage also means being willing to lose the relationship. That's tough. But ask yourself, do I want peace in the short term or freedom in the long term? Part 7. A cultural lens. Now, let's step back and think culturally. Many societies actually encourage manipulation by rewarding charm over honesty. Think about movies and TV shows. The bad boy who smooth talks his way into women's hearts is often romanticized. The guy who plays games, hides his feelings, and keeps women guessing is seen as exciting. But what does this teach women? It teaches them to confuse manipulation with passion, to mistake unpredictability for depth, to think drama equals love. Compare this with some traditional cultures where roles and expectations were more defined. Yes, those systems had their problems, but one advantage was that manipulative games were less tolerated. People valued duty, honor, and directness more than charm. So part of protecting yourself is asking, am I attracted to honesty, or am I addicted to drama? Part 8. My personal take. Let me share something personal. I once had a friend who always made me feel guilty if I didn't do what he wanted. If I said no to hanging out, he'd say, "Wow, I guess our friendship doesn't matter to you." At first, I thought maybe I really was being a bad friend. But over time, I noticed the pattern. He never respected my time, only his. When I started setting boundaries. Part 9. The power of words. Let's get practical. When you deal with a manipulative man, the way you use words matters. Many people fall into the trap of over-explaining. For example, you say, "I can't come tonight." He replies, "Why not? Don't you care about me?" You panic and you start explaining every detail of your schedule until you sound guilty. Here's the trick. Stop justifying, start affirming. Instead of defending yourself, repeat your point calmly. I can't come tonight. No excuses, no guilt, just a clear statement. Manipulators feed on emotional reactions. If you stay calm and repeat your words, they lose power. Think of it like dealing with a child throwing a tantrum. If you argue or yell, the tantrum grows. If you stay calm and consistent, the tantrum eventually stops. Part 10. The importance of boundaries. Boundaries are not walls to shut people out. They are doors that you control, deciding who comes in and on what terms. A manipulative man tests your boundaries constantly. If you let him call you at 2 a.m. when you're exhausted, he'll keep doing it. If you accept him canceling plans last minute, he'll keep disrespecting your time. If you tolerate guilt trips, he'll use them more. So how do you set boundaries? Be clear. Say what you allow and what you don't. Example, I don't answer calls after 10 p.m. Be consistent. Don't set a rule and then break it the next day. Be prepared for pushback. Manipulators often test your limits even harder once you set them. Here's the key. Boundaries only work if you enforce them. If you say don't call after 10, but still pick up at 11, the rule means nothing. Part 11. The trap of emotional debt. One of the sneakiest tricks manipulators use is creating emotional debt. Here's how it works. He does something nice for you. Maybe he gives you a gift or helps you with a problem. But later, he uses it as a weapon. Example, after everything I've done for you, how can you say no? Notice what happened. A true gift has no strings attached, but he turned it into a chain around your neck. This is where you need to be careful. If you feel trapped because of what someone gave you, ask yourself, was it really a gift? Or was it an investment designed to control you? Remember, love is not debt. Real care is free. If someone makes you feel like you owe them constantly, you're being manipulated. Part 12. Gaslighting. Let's talk about one of the most dangerous tools of manipulation, gaslighting. Gaslighting is when someone makes you doubt your own reality. For example, you remember him saying something cruel, but he insists, I never said that. You must be imagining things. You feel hurt by his actions, but he tells you, you're too sensitive. Nobody else would react this way. You point out an inconsistency, and he replies, you're crazy. Stop overthinking. Over time, gaslighting makes you question your memory, your feelings, even your sanity. And once you stop trusting yourself, you become fully dependent on him to define reality. So, how do you fight gaslighting? Keep a record. Write down events, conversations, and feelings. This reminds you that your memory is real. Trust your gut. If something feels wrong, don't dismiss it just because he denies it. Seek outside perspective. Talk to a trusted friend who can confirm whether your perception makes sense. Gaslighting thrives in isolation. The more you stay connected to reality outside the manipulator, the less power gaslighting has over you. Part 13. The role of self-respect. Now, here's something important. Manipulation doesn't just happen because someone is clever. It also happens because we sometimes lack self-respect. If you deep down believe that you don't deserve love, you'll tolerate bad treatment. If you think your value depends on pleasing others, you'll accept guilt trips. If you fear being alone, you'll cling to toxic relationships. This is why Jordan Peterson often emphasizes taking responsibility for your own life first. Because when you know your worth, manipulation loses its grip. Ask yourself, do I value myself enough to walk away from someone who treats me badly? Do I believe I have the right to say no? Do I think my needs matter as much as anyone else's? If the answer is no, that's where the real work begins, not with him, but with you. Part 14. Manipulation in dating culture. Let's zoom out and look at dating culture. Modern dating often encourages manipulation without even realizing it. Think about playing hard to get. It's basically pretending you don't care just to make the other person chase you. That's manipulation. Or the idea of negging, insulting someone lightly to lower their confidence so they want your approval. That's manipulation too. Even on social media, people post cryptic messages to make their partner feel jealous. Again, manipulation. The problem is these tactics can work in the short term, but they destroy trust in the long term. And trust is the foundation of real love. So, if you want to stop being manipulated, you also need to stop accepting manipulation as normal in dating. Honesty may feel boring compared to drama, but it's the only way to build something real. Part 15. How to confront a manipulator. Okay, let's say you realize a man is manipulating you. What do you do in the moment? Here's a step-by-step approach. Stay calm. Don't give him the reaction he wants. If he's guilt-tripping, don't explode in anger or collapse in tears. Name the behavior. Example, you're making me feel guilty for saying no. That's not fair. Restate your boundary. Example, I said I can't do this tonight. That hasn't changed. End the conversation if needed. Example, I'm not going to argue about this. We can talk later when it's calmer. Follow through. If he keeps pushing, you may need to take a break or even walk away completely. Remember, confrontation doesn't always fix the manipulator, but it protects you, and the more you practice it, the stronger you get. Part 16. When manipulation looks like love. This part is tricky. Sometimes manipulation hides under what looks like love. For example, I'm jealous because I love you so much. I'm controlling because I care about your safety. I can't live without you, so you can't leave me. These statements may sound romantic at first, but look closer. They're designed to trap you. Real love gives freedom. Manipulation takes freedom away. If his love feels heavy, suffocating, or scary, it's not love. It's control wearing a mask. Part 17. The courage to walk away. Here's a hard truth. Sometimes the only way to stop manipulation is to leave the relationship. That doesn't mean you failed. It means you respected yourself enough to choose peace over chaos. Walking away takes courage, especially if you've invested time, emotions, or even years into the relationship. But ask yourself, if nothing changes, do I want to live like this for the next 5 years? What example am I setting for my children or even for myself by staying? Is temporary loneliness worse than permanent manipulation? Most people who walk away later say, I wish I had done it sooner. Because once you step outside the fog, you see how much energy manipulation was draining from your life. Part 18. A personal reflection. I once spoke with a woman who said she felt like her boyfriend was rewriting her reality. At first, he was sweet and charming, but slowly he started making her doubt herself, criticizing her memory, her choices, her friends. When she tried to set boundaries, he accused her of being selfish. When she considered leaving, he promised to change, but nothing ever changed. She told me that the turning point was this thought: if he really loved me, he wouldn't make me feel smaller. He'd help me grow. That's when she walked away, and today she says it was the best decision of her life. I share this because it shows something simple. The moment you believe you deserve better, manipulation loses its grip. Part 19. Transition to next section. So far, we've covered how to use words and boundaries effectively, the traps of emotional debt and gaslighting, why self-respect is the shield against manipulation, how to confront manipulators and, if needed, walk away. But there's one last piece left: the bigger psychological and cultural picture. In the final section, we'll explore how stopping manipulation connects to living a meaningful life, what thinkers like Jung and others might add to the discussion, and how you can apply these lessons not just in relationships, but in every part of your life. Part 26. Beyond Relationships. Manipulation. Everywhere. Let's step back for a moment. Manipulation doesn't only happen in romantic relationships. It shows up in workplaces, friendships, and even families. A boss who makes you feel guilty for leaving on time. A friend who only calls when they need a favor. A parent who says, "After all I sacrificed for you, this is how you repay me?" Different faces, same strategy. Control without honesty. When you learn to see manipulation in one area of life, you begin to see it everywhere. And that's powerful, because awareness frees you from playing roles you never chose. Part 21. The Psychology of the Shadow. Let's bring in a deeper psychological idea here. Carl Jung, a thinker who influenced Jordan Peterson, talked about the shadow. The shadow is the hidden part of our personality, the desires, fears, and impulses we don't want to admit. A manipulative man often projects his shadow onto others. He can't face his own weakness, so he makes you feel weak. He can't accept his own guilt, so he makes you carry guilt for him. But here's the twist. We all have shadows. If you ignore your own, you become easier to manipulate. Example: if you deny that you sometimes feel angry, you'll tolerate people crossing your boundaries because you're afraid of confrontation. If you deny that you fear loneliness, you'll cling to toxic relationships rather than risk being alone. Facing your shadow, accepting that you have flaws, needs, and limits makes you stronger, because once you own those parts of yourself, no one can use them against you. Part 22. Responsibility as Freedom. Let's bring in Jordan Peterson's a key idea here. Responsibility gives life meaning. At first, this sounds unrelated to manipulation, but it's actually central. Here's why. When you take responsibility for your own life, your choices, your feelings, your future, you stop being easy prey for manipulators. Why? Because manipulators thrive on people who hand over responsibility. If you rely on him to define your worth, he controls you. If you rely on him to decide what's real, he controls you. If you rely on him to make you happy, he controls you. But when you say, "I am responsible for my happiness," "I am responsible for my choices," "I am responsible for my worth," then the game ends. Responsibility sounds heavy, but it's actually the doorway to freedom. Part 23. Cultural Shifts and Manipulation. Let's look at society again. We live in a culture that often rewards appearance over substance. On social media, many people carefully craft images to get attention. Some use jealousy, some use guilt, some use pity. In other words, manipulation is built into the system. This makes it even harder to tell what's real, but it also makes authenticity more valuable than ever. If you practice honesty, clarity, and self-respect, you stand out. And you naturally attract people who value those qualities too. So, learning how to resist manipulation isn't just about protecting yourself. It's about creating healthier communities, families, and even societies. Part 24. Examples from everyday life. Let's ground this in simple, everyday situations. At work, Your boss says, "We're like a family here, so I need you to stay late again." Translation: I'm exploiting your loyalty. Response: I value this job, but I can't stay tonight. Let's plan workload differently. With friends: your friend says, "If you were really my friend, you'd lend me money." Translation: I'm using guilt to get cash. Response: I care about our friendship, but I don't lend money. Let's find another solution. In dating, he says, "If you loved me, you'd prove it by..." Translation: I'm testing your love through control. Response: love isn't a test. If you doubt my feelings, let's talk about that directly. Notice the pattern? The key is not fighting with anger, but calmly refusing the hidden game. Part 25. Building Inner Strength. To resist manipulation, you need inner strength. That doesn't come overnight, it's built through daily habits. Here are a few that help. Journaling. Write down your thoughts and experiences. This strengthens your connection to reality. Clear communication. Practice saying no in small situations. Over time, it gets easier. Physical health. A strong body supports a strong mind. Sleep, exercise, and nutrition matter. Time alone. Spend time learning to enjoy your own company. It makes you less afraid of being single or isolated. Seek growth. Read, learn, and challenge yourself. The more confident you become, the less likely you'll tolerate manipulation. Think of it as building armor, not to shut people out, but to protect your freedom to love and live fully. Part 26. Healthy relationships as the alternative. It's not enough to avoid manipulation. You also need to know what a healthy relationship looks like. In a healthy relationship, boundaries are respected, mistakes are admitted, not denied. Love is shown consistently, not used as a weapon. Both people feel stronger, not weaker. A healthy man doesn't punish you for being yourself. He doesn't make you doubt your memory or your value. Instead, he helps you grow, and you do the same for him. When you know what healthy looks like, it becomes easier to spot unhealthy early. Part 27. Personal reflection. Let me share another personal thought here. I've noticed that the times I was most easily manipulated were the times I was running from myself. When I didn't want to face my fears, I let others control me. When I was desperate for approval, I believed lies that made me feel valued. But the more I took responsibility for my own flaws and growth, the less power manipulators had over me. It wasn't about becoming cold or distant. It was about becoming grounded. So, if you feel trapped in manipulation right now, I want to tell you, freedom doesn't start with changing him. It starts with changing how much you trust and respect yourself. Part 28. A challenge for you. Now, let me leave you with a challenge. Think of one situation in your life where you feel pressured, guilty, or controlled. Ask yourself, is this true responsibility or false responsibility placed on me? Am I acting from love or from fear of conflict? What would happen if I calmly set a boundary here? Then, this week, take one small step. Maybe it's saying no to something you don't want to do. Maybe it's writing down how you really feel after a conversation. Maybe it's refusing to explain yourself when you know your decision is fair. Start small, but start. Because every time you resist manipulation, you grow stronger. Part 29. Closing thoughts. So, we've gone on a long journey today. We talked about what manipulation looks like, why people fall into it, how it connects to power, responsibility, and psychology, practical strategies for spotting and stopping it, and how resisting manipulation creates freedom, not just in relationships, but in your whole life. At the end of the day, here's the truth. A manipulative man only has power if you give it to him. The moment you see clearly, the spell breaks. And when you combine awareness with courage, you become free. Part 30. Final question and call to action. Now, I want to hear from you. Have you ever realized someone was manipulating you only after it was too late? How did you deal with it? Share your story in the comments. I'd love to read your thoughts, and others watching this video might learn from your experience too. And if you found this helpful, don't forget to hit like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss the